Hello. For those, familiar with my channel, my name is T. Surprise, you get 2 videos in 1 week. This is not going to be a regular video at all. This is literally just me talking into the wind, honestly. This is going to make absolutely no sense to most of you that are regular people that watch me, I guess. Like I just said, this is unscripted, unprompted, unplanned, pure live journaling, I guess. So, to begin at the beginning, I guess. I started playing Final Fantasy XIV probably around 2018, I'd want to say. I was a WoW player for years before that. I was a heroic raider in Legion, and for for like the first 2 raids of Battle for Azeroth. So, yeah, that's my background with, raiding and both games in general. But BFA was really bad. WoW kind of sucked a little bit. So me and my friends, we kind of jumped ship. And wouldn't you know it, we came to Final Fantasy XIV. I, at first, got the free trial. I think it went up to, I got the Twitch promotion version from my friend. So I honestly don't remember where it went up to, but I remember I was leveling through the game. I was leveling through A Realm Reborn. Phenomenal. My god. I loved it. I still love A Realm Reborn. I wholly loved going through it. By the way, if you're a regular on the channel, this is probably going to make absolutely no sense to you. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to be explaining anything that I'm talking about here. This is purely, again, live journaling. I don't even know if I'm going to release this as a video. This might just be purely me just getting out a lot of feelings and emotion about a game that was through me. Yeah, it was through me. That was with me for a very long while. That I was very fond of. And we're gonna get into it. So, like I said, I went through A Realm Reborn, loved it. Me and my friends, we played relentlessly together. That was, I believe A Requiem for Heroes had released like a few months ago. So like the Shadowbringers trailers were already coming out. I was trying to avoid most of them because by that point I had little to no context for any of it. I think I saw people discussing why Y'shtola was being called Master Matoya in the cutscene, or in the trailer, and I was just like, who the hell is Master Matoya? I was so confused. And then I got to Heavensward and it was just like, why is she being called Master Matoya? It was a wild ride. So yeah, most of, basically I loved the hell out of, everything that I went through. Frigging phenomenal. Heavensward? Oh my god, don't even get me started. I could ramble about Heavensward alone. Stormblood. Pretty good. Pretty good. I didn't enjoy I didn't enjoy Shadowbringers. Yeah, right. I didn't enjoy Stormblood as much as I enjoyed Heavensward. I loved it. the Revelations, I believe it's called, the main theme for Stormblood, still gives me chills. Love that song. And then we got to the first expansion release that I got to be there for Final Fantasy XIV. We got to Shadowbringers. Holy fuck, dude. There's no way to describe the way that Shadowbringers made me feel to a regular person. If you were there for Shadowbringers and you were really, really into 14, then you understand. Like, I am a story person above all else in games. I love story. Honestly, I do a lot of, like, writing. I've always been, like, a bit of a writer. So, yeah, no, like, everything about Shadowbringers was so good story-wise. Even the content, like, I loved Baja. I spent so much time in there. I spent too much time in there. So, then, once, Shadowbringers came and gone, it ripped my heart out of my body multiple times. I still cry at multiple cutscenes from Shadowbringers. I will cry like a goddamn baby at those cutscenes. And then we get to Endwalker, the, fabled end of a 10-year saga. Now, personally, I loved the MSQ. Loved. Like, literally changed the way that I view the world. Loved. It was influential, would be a good word to describe Endwalker, or the way that it impacted me. So this is kind of where we come to the reason that I'm making this video. Because it's a Final Fantasy XIV video, and I just started explaining to you my backstory with the game. I think we know what is about to happen. But for me, I think Shadowbringers is where there started to be some cracks in the foundation, you know? It started with the post-story, with the post-MSQ story, I think. I have not... Basically, for me, Final Fantasy XIV was my introduction to Final Fantasy as a series. So, I know a lot of it, a lot of, like, the references or the post-MSQ story. It went over my head. I'm fine with that, honestly. I don't care. It's Final Fantasy. Of course there's gonna be freaking callbacks. But the story just... I liked Zero as a character. I did. But I found a lot of the post-story got a little repetitive by the end, Because it really felt like she was just learning the same lesson over and over every patch cycle. It was like, oh, having friends is good. Oh, relying on other people is important. And it's like, okay, I get it. You're learning that, you don't have to be wholly on your own anymore. There are people, everywhere who will support you and stuff, but that's wildly simplified. I know there's a lot more going on than that in that story, but I don't really want to be here for the next 2 hours explaining all of the lore. So, yeah, we're just broad strokes, everybody. Broad strokes. So, then the content. So, I'm a casual player. Like I said, I did heroic rating in WoW. Honestly, I was done with it by the time I got to Final Fantasy XIV. I did, like, the first 2 fights of Pandemonium. That was about it. They were good. I really enjoyed them. But my raid group kind of fell apart since our raid leader, they didn't have like a chair, and it was really starting to impact their health with the fact that I think they were using like an exercise ball, which was really bad for their back, and so we just kind of stopped raiding. And after that, I never really bothered looking for another raid group, which was fine with me because, like, at that point I'd kind of gotten a good feel for the raid scene, and again, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but I was just kind of over it by that point, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hang out. I'm just gonna chill and play the game, and that worked very well in Shadowbringers. Because, again, I was a Basha fiend. I spent so much time in that. That is literally the only reason that I had any characters at level 80 by the time that we went into Endwalker. Wait, was level 80 Shadowbringers or Endwalker? No, yeah, Endwalker was level 90. Dawn Trail is level 100. Okay, yeah. I'm so sorry, by the way, I have ADHD. This is not scripted. This is, again, just live talking. But yeah, no, Endwalker was difficult in terms of, stuff you had to do. There was no equivalent to Basha in Endwalker, and a lot of, the stuff for casual players to do was the Island Sanctuary, which I went into it very excited. I am a cozy gamer. If you looked at the other videos on this channel, they are a Fields of Mystery long play and a lot of Minecraft. I think it's safe to say that I am definitely, I enjoy, relaxing games. I'm a farm sim kind of person. I have like 700 hours in Stardew Valley. I've probably got like 1,000 in Animal Crossing New Horizons. But yeah, I went in with the expectation that it wasn't going to be exactly like that, but I was still excited because it sounded like something I'd really enjoy. And it kind of just turned into spreadsheets. A lot of spreadsheets, and I think that's kind of where I stopped being interested in it. Like, I would still do it every once in a while, and just purely because I really wanted the cosmetics that came with it. I wanted the cute little outfits. I really wanted some of the mounts. I never got most of those mounts. I think I have like one of the Mandragoras. But then Eureka Orthos was around. I don't remember the exact timeline of when these things came out, and I'm not gonna bother looking them up. So if I get any timeline things wrong, I'm dumb, I'm lazy. That's literally, it sounds harsh, but that is, honestly, I'm not dumb, it's just, I have a very bad memory. But, yeah, no, it was, Eureka Orthos came out, I did it, I always liked the deep dungeon stuff. I never went for, like, a necromancer title or lone hero or anything, but whenever I was bored, I would just hop into a deep dungeon, go and enjoy some mindless grinding. And then it was out for, at least a month or two, and the queues started drying up fast, like. And at the time, I was not really interested in soloing that kind of stuff, so when the queues dried up, I was just kind of like, damn, okay. Also, if you can hear, I don't think you can hear it, but if you hear any like weird clicking, I'm playing with a little fidget toy to try and keep my brain more focused on the topic so that I don't zone out and have like 1,000 things that I need to edit if I do end up deciding to make this into a video. So it's purely just, I'm trying to like keep my hands occupied so that my brain doesn't start wandering. yeah, no, so when the Eureka Orthos queues started going away, I don't know, just kind of stopped doing a lot of stuff. I still did my roulettes every once in a while. I got really into PvP at one point, because I think Crystalline Conflict released sometime in Endwalker. It was like mid to late Endwalker, I think, and I got really into it. So that was also very enjoyable. I think Crystalline Conflict still is pretty popular in the game. Honestly, I do not play that much anymore. So if anything of what I'm saying is outdated by, 7.2, I think, standards, then, yeah, just chalk it up to that. I genuinely do not keep up with the game enough anymore. But, yeah, there's also the classes jobs thing that was kind of... So, despite the fact that my character right now is a black mage, I am a healer main. People who play FF14 in Dawntrail, thank you for your condolences. If you've played, if you were an Endwalker, thank you for your condolences. Oh god, I'm digging a hole, aren't I? But, yeah, being a healer in Final Fantasy XIV is a very trying experience. I loved it in Endwalker for the savage fights I did. Because some of those heal checks, I was a shield healer, and my other healer was a scholar. They were a fucking amazing scholar. Oh, nah, whatever, I'm gonna swear in this video, it's going to happen. They were an amazing scholar, we had great synergy together. I am absolutely not saying anything against them. I want to make that very clear, they're still a very dear friend of mine. But yeah, no, just by the nature of how scholars still worked at that point. A lot of, like, the raw healing. We had, like, the basis of, like, big heal checks. I was always the one that did, like, the big cooldowns, and they would... Whenever I didn't have my big cooldowns, then they would use theirs. And I loved that. I was a Mythic Plus freak in World of Warcraft, so I loved this setup. But, like, doing dungeons or, like, anything that wasn't those two savage raids, oh my god. It was... man, it was mind-numbing. Especially because... So, this is one minor, very, very minor gripe that I have always had with Shadowbringers. I used to main Astrologian in Shadowbringers up until the changes to the card system and sleeve draw, I think it's called. I do not remember off the top of my head. It's basically the mechanic where you pull 3 cards at the same time and you just use them. I think that was the mechanic that they changed about Astrologian, and I found that change just... it felt very clunky, and it drove me away from the class, like, entirely. I just switched over to White Mage because I was just like, man, I kind of hate shield healers, and Astrologian just doesn't feel good right now, so I'm just gonna go play this other healer. I mained White Mage through most of Shadowbringers to Endwalker at that point. Again, if you played a White Mage in Endwalker, thank you for your condolences. I offered them to you as well. So now we get to Dawntrail. Yay. So I think it's safe to say that Dawntrail is divisive. You either love Dawntrail or you hate Dawntrail. That is the overwhelming opinion that I have seen online. I don't think I have ever seen a single person who was like, Dawn Trail is okay. It's either you love Dawn Trail or you despise it. I'll give you 3 guesses if you can guess which one I am. I do not like Dawn Trail. I went in so hopeful. I was so excited. I was really excited about it. I was so hyped to be going to Tulialal. I was so excited for, getting to know, getting a new story arc. Like, Hydaelyn and Zodiac are gone. Like, wow. There's a whole world of possibility out there for us now. So, let's go help the Nepo baby. I'm gonna get killed for that. If you heard a noise there, sorry, my knee hit my computer. Or my desk, I mean. But yeah, no, I think Dawn Trail's story was honestly the straw that broke the camel's back for me, I think. I tried. I tried so hard. I was so high on the copium that I was literally, I did not have any oxygen in my lungs. It was only copium. I kept on hoping, like, yeah, it's gonna get better, guys. It's a little flawed, but it's a new story arc. They're just, let them cook, let them cook. Yep. I don't think I'm gonna post this. I think I got to... I don't even remember what part of the story I got to that I just completely shut off. But I remember very specifically, I think it was the Mamulja arc in the Jatika Heartland, I think is its name. I think that's where I kind of started to shut down a little bit, and I was disengaging from the story even before that. I think one of the big things that broke me was the fight between Bakul Jaja and Wuklamat, where they kidnapped the Elector. I'd like to point that out. They kidnapped the Elector. When literally in the other zone, Bakul Jaja threatens the Elector and is told that even doing that is enough to try and disqualify him. He literally kidnapped an Elector and he was still allowed to participate. Okay, I'm fine. I was so upset about that when it happened, and I still kind of have a lot of feelings, but yeah, no, Dawn Trail's story was, I think, the deciding factor for me in... I think that's kind of where I started to really notice the issues starting to form. Because not only that, but I feel like Dawn Trail was kind of the turning point for a lot of the job design sort of becoming worse and worse. Again, I kind of started having that problem in Shadowbringers, and again, I loved Shadowbringers. It is still hands down my favorite expansion alongside Endwalker, but I still don't understand why they changed sleeve draw like that. It legitimately made it feel so clunky. But no, it just... the story just broke me for Dawn Trail. Like, I think I got to Heritage Found, and by that point, I was like... It was literally just because my friend kept telling me that if he had to go through the story, then I had to go through it. That was keeping me actually doing it. Like... I will be very, very blunt for a second. I do not like Wuklamat. She is genuinely a very poorly written character, and she is an actual black hole. Literally all of the qualities of the Scions just seem to evaporate in her presence. She never goes through any sort of meaningful character arc in the sense that it feels like she learns anything. It just feels like all of a sudden she's just, capable of doing things that at the beginning of the story she was very clearly not. It doesn't feel like, for your character having to be a mentor as well, it just... I don't care that my character isn't the main spotlight. She's like 2 feet tall. She was never in the spotlight anyway. She's too short for it. My problem is the fact that the mentor arc just felt... It kind of felt like an afterthought. It felt like they wrote the story with Wuk-Lamat in mind, and then had to find a reason for your character to be there. Which, again, I don't care that my character isn't in the spotlight. I love the idea of different characters taking the roles in, the expansions, like Alphino being, sort of the spotlight of character development for Heavensward, and then Lys for Stormblood, and honestly a lot of the Scions kind of taking that sort of role depending on the zone for Shadowbringers. I loved it. It just didn't work with Wuk-Lamat. It just doesn't feel like she was properly fleshed out enough. And I will be honest, I have not done 7.1 or 7.2. Honestly, I don't care enough about the story anymore. I don't want to do it. I've heard that the story gets a lot better with the patch content. I wouldn't know, so I'm not going to comment on that. You can fill me in the comments if anyone actually listens to this that knows anything about 14, I guess. Because if I actually post this, I don't honestly know. This is basically just me getting a lot of catharsis out, really. But there's also the problem of the content for Dawntrail. So, again, I have not done the story content for 7.1 and 7.2. I have not done any content in Dawntrail since, like, pretty much, the MSQ ended. I'm not going to comment on the Occult Crescent or the Forked Tower because I haven't done it. That's not my place to do it. I have read a lot of stuff that it's a very flawed system and that it was a backslide from Basha, but I don't have any, real experience with that, so I am not going to sit here and criticize content that I have not done. But my gripe is the fact that what were we supposed to do in the wait for that content to come out? Because it really did not feel like there was any thought put into that exactly. Because that's honestly a problem I had with Endwalker as well, was the wait in between the patch content. It got really long with only having, like, your roulettes to do. Especially since, like, I played 14 relentlessly. I did everything that the game had to offer. I leveled all of my other jobs. I got into PvP. I did the hunt trains. I did Eureka. I never got to go to Baldestian Arsenal. But, eh. But, like, I think Endwalker was legitimately the first time where I actually stepped away from the game and took, like, a few months break just because I was so bored of doing the same things and just AFKing in a random spot and watching YouTube videos on the side, that I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna step away from the game for a little while. I need a break. I need time to just think about the game and if I want to keep playing. Ultimately, my answer at that point was yes, because I still had the faith that, the things were going to improve. I can't exactly say whether I still hold that opinion exactly. I have not been keeping up with the game as heavily as I used to, but the things that I keep seeing about, like, people talking about, like, Forked Tower being only, like, a hard mode because there was not enough money in the budget or something. I think what it was a cost issue, which... Are you kidding? It's very hard to kind of talk about 14 normally because I still love the game. I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it like this if I didn't love the game. It makes me so fucking mad that I am literally sitting here talking like this about a game that changed my life in a way that I never thought a game could. 14 was one of the reasons that I honestly started becoming more, like, confident, I guess. It helped me start improving my writing by showing me, like, giving me the confidence to start expanding my characters more into more complex, you know? It gave me friends that I still treasure to this day. It gave me one of my closest friends that, like, I don't know where I'd be without that guy. He's fucking amazing. So having a game that has been that form, like, has been so important to me for so long, to see it kind of, to be blunt, to see it kind of falling to the same thing that I think WoW was dealing with in BFA, it hurts. There's no other way to say it. It hurts. It genuinely sucks. And there's so many other people that have said this online that at this point, I am simply another voice echoing into the void on this topic. I know that, but man, it fucking sucks. There's simply no other words that can convey how it feels at this moment. And especially, like, with, like, the job system as well, I keep seeing people being like, you know, I feel like a lot of the job issue comes to just the fact that, well, I'm speaking from the perspective of a healer, obviously. Again, I'm a healer main. I have been a healer main in games since I started playing WoW, and it kind of just continued into 14. I feel like a lot of the problem with, you know, the job design right now, other than the blatant homogenization, I'm sorry, tank players, but I'm sorry, warrior players, you're over the line. You need to be toned down a little. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to hear it. I played warrior when I got tired of being shafted as a healer. Pressing, what is its name? Raw Intuition? It's not Raw Intuition after it gets leveled. Pressing basically the haha I can't die button, whatever its name is. That feels so good. Like, I will absolutely give that to you. I press that button and I feel invincible. That is, like, all of my tanking experience purely comes from the fact that I really wanted to try warrior because it looked so much fun. And it is fun when you're the tank. Because let me tell you, when you're a healer and your warrior tank presses the haha I can't die button, I basically just alt-tab. Well, I don't alt-tab because I have double monitors, but basically I just look away from the screen and I don't bother. Which sounds kind of toxic, but again, you're not going to die anyways. The DPS aren't going to die because they have their own defensives. I am essentially just pressing 2 buttons, maybe 3 if I'm lucky, and there's a large chunk of mobs that aren't going to, like, be eviscerated immediately. It doesn't feel good, is basically what I'm getting at. And I know that there are actually a lot of DPS players now that are talking about that as well. They're kind of getting a taste of what the healers have been for the last few years. I know they did a giant amount of Black Mage changes that everybody in my circle at least, seemed to hate. Again, I have not been playing the game, so I can't really comment on it. My character is a Black Mage purely for RP purposes. I love the aesthetic of the job. I never had the patience to try and learn it. But this is going to sound really, really mean, but I've seen so many DPS players keep telling healers that, like, it's not as bad as, you think it is. They're dumbing down your jobs because they're going to overhaul it in the next expansion. They've told us this so many times. This is all for a grander purpose. Just trust Yoshi P. And there's been a twisted enjoyment in seeing the DPS players kind of complain about the same things that the healer players have been complaining about for years. I'm sorry. It's mean. I hate it for you as much as I've hated it for the healers, from as much as I've hated it for myself, but Oh, I hope this video gets no views. I don't want to deal with having people tell me to kill myself in the comments. But no, it's just, I wish this wasn't where the game was at the moment in general. That is purely it. I wish the game wasn't in this state. I would give fucking anything to be able to log into 14 every day and actually want to play the game. I would give anything to have, like, excitement about the game, to have the passion that I once did for it. Because, again, I love this game. And maybe that's, like, a sunk cost fallacy kind of talk right there, but, like, it's hard to think that this is the same game that gave us Shadowbringers and Endwalker. Particularly Shadowbringers, because, wow. Like, Shadowbringers wasn't all perfect, obviously, but wow. So, yeah, that's really just, I don't know if any of this has made sense. It probably hasn't. If I wanted to make this kind of video, I probably should have made a script for it, but I feel like my thought for that was, if I made a script, then I just wasn't going to get, my genuine thoughts out, because I was going to be overthinking every word and trying to make it more palatable. So I thought, you know what? It's also the fact that I've been so fired up over this for the last while that I felt like if I started making a script, I was going to lose that fire, and I just needed to get all of it out. I just needed to start rambling, and I needed to start talking. This video is already 40 minutes, and I have a lot more to say. Do not even get me started on the cash shop shenanigans that are starting up now, because, I may not do the content, but oh boy, am I got some feelings about the cash shop and the way that they keep insisting that there's not money in the budget for something like Fork Tower when, Square Enix is very clearly relying on 14 to be its cash cow to make all of its other failed projects. But, this video is already 40 minutes. I don't feel like being here for, 2 hours explaining every little gripe that I have and every feeling of anger and almost betrayal that I have right now with the game. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Thanks, I guess. Again, this probably isn't even going to make it to YouTube, but you know what? Crazier things have happened. Maybe I am interested to hear your thoughts. Maybe I'm interested in hearing all of the unique death threats I'm going to get. That'd be really fun. Yeah. Thanks. Bye. You know, if anyone actually watches this video, then feel free to tell me your experiences with Dawn Trail, good or bad. I am genuinely curious if you are still playing. Why are you still playing? Not in a rude sense. I want to know, what is it that, you know, keeps you coming back to the game? Because, man, I want some reasons to come back to the game. I miss my character. I miss the world. I miss Eorzea. I miss the music. I miss the Scions. There's so much about this game that I miss, and if you've got reasons that you stay playing the game, tell me, and who knows, maybe it's going to reignite my passion for the game. I would honestly love that. Okay, I'm going to go. Yeah. Bye, again for like the 4th time.